I'm getting such good interaction on LinkedIn at the moment.
Well, because you're posting a lot recently.
Like I just posted that podcast one, like kind of, I hadn't planned it. I just, you know, when I set it up and put the time lapse.
Yeah.
It's got 120 likes.
Damn, Sean.
It's nuts, isn't it?
And
then that one that I posted about being old has had like 200. All right, well, speaking of, we were just talking about my LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I posted on LinkedIn last week or the week before that I've been working for myself for 15 years. And I was thinking about like clients that I'm still working with, or clients that I was working with back then, and which ones I'm still kind of in touch with and working with now. Let's go back a bit. They used to be called McGregor Healthcare. They were a medical supply reseller for Qufora products, which are a Danish company. And yeah, I think I was probably working with them. It was quite soon after I moved to Scotland. So I reckon definitely over a decade, maybe like 12 years. This is a long time. And I was just thinking about how different the content that we're making for them now is to when I first started. Because have you seen any of the stuff that when we first started making content? Oh, well, here it is.
Play it now.
Here it is. Yeah, so it was very kind of matter of fact and instructional, and it is kind of quite sensitive and a bit delicate about what the subject matter is. So we kind of had to not quite dance around the subject, but there's a lot of implied things that we needed to talk about, and things
New creative ways to
show
it.
Yeah. So things that we couldn't show directly, we usually used like diagrams or motion graphics, animation, that kind of thing. But over time, I think the content that you're probably more familiar with that we produce for them is a lot more kind of lifestyle driven. It's case study videos. It's not literally how this equipment is being used, but it's kind of the effect that it has on
these people.
Yeah, on these people and the patients. Just thinking about how many of you worked on? Three. So if we talk a little bit about those then. So what was the first one?
Ireland. Jack and PJ.
What was the format of that then?
The format of that was we had two young lads, and it was their kind of story and progression on how they met due to having these accidents, and then also using
they both had spinal cord injuries, right? Yeah.
And then they went to rehab, and then that's how it kind of flowed into them using the same kind of products.
Yeah.
So it's kind of about them having each other to kind of have a friendship with, but also share the same kind of
well, they've gone through the same sort of struggles, haven't they? Their journey is quite similar in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah. Both very different, by the way. One was set in Cork town.
Yeah.
The other was so much further down south in the middle of nowhere, and I had
it was like on a farm, right?
Farm, yeah. We had cows, we had sheep, we had dogs, and then the whole second part of that was them getting together again after so long and doing this project together, sharing their thoughts.
Okay.
It was good. It was great.
And then the second project,
Southend.
Yeah.
Kim and Steve.
Tell us about that.
We travelled all the way down to Southend. It was to do with a letter? Kim wrote a letter, but then Steve like said it.
Right, yeah.
And it was made to look like it was Steve's words, and then it kind of got revealed that this is who Kim is. She's wrote this.
Yeah. So I think that's a good example of like how I think the type of video and the kind of complexity of the videos that we're delivering has changed over time, because that is, you know, even just introducing that like kind of sleight of hand from a sort of filmmaking point of view of like, we'd start off the video implying that Steve is the patient, and then it's kind of, there's a reveal that, oh, actually it is
much more story-like, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Steve's wife, Kim, like she'd gone through a lot herself, and you know, it is a very emotional story, and you know, it's about how they support one another. And again, it's really like massively moved on from where we started at with Qufora videos that were very like matter of fact, and now we're sort of developing those stories and developing our filmmaking as well to sort of tell similar stories, but in a way more like emotionally complex way that I think connects with people on a much deeper level. If you can show them like the effect that it has, that's so much more poignant and effective. Tell us about the Birmingham project, because I had very little to do with that.
So what happened was we booked our studio,
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 separate families who all didn't know each other, by the way.
Yeah.
They just had one thing in common, that was they were from the Birmingham Children's Hospital, and this was kind of in partnership with them. So it's Qufora and the hospital itself. Yeah.
So they all, the thread was that they all use Qufora products.
Yes.
And we're all kind of at one point based at Birmingham
hospital,
Children's
yes.
Hospital. Got you.
Yeah. So like I said, we have 4 different families, and all the kids were like different ages. You had one that was 17, and then you went all the way down to 4. But then this whole kind of project itself was for us to hear the voices of parents and how they've dealt with their kid to go through these things.
Yeah, sure.
And how they started off without the Qufora product and they felt like they had no hope really. And then the interviews will kind of change, and then they'll go, but I now do have the product, and this is how I am now. This is like, look at my kid.
Yeah,
they're completely different. And then you also had the kids side of it as well. Like they sat down and they answered some.
Was it quite hard
questions.
interviewing kids about that sort of stuff?
It was, especially when you get to the 4-year-olds, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
It was quite a wriggler as well.
Do they understand what's going on?
They do understand, especially the 17-year-old girl.
Yeah, sure.
Then you also had the parents talking to each other.
Yeah.
And then these parents hadn't really dealt with other parents that had.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I guess as a byproduct of making this film, it actually got them talking to other parents and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So I think that's where the audience really was, to be honest.
Yeah,
it was about
sure.
either kids watching this, if they're going through the same situation, or maybe they're about to go through the same situation, they see the change that it's had on these people.
Yeah.
Or it's about parents that have dealt with kids in the same situation as the scene in the film.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Cool.
So it's a really different audience, but I think it was a lot more emotionally impactful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's nice seeing, even over those 3 videos that we talked about, like how much it's progressing. What do you think is the main benefit of doing these types of videos? So like case study, lifestyle-y kind of videos that are a bit like, for want of a better phrase, like softer, rather than like your hard sell of these are the benefits, blah, 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 you know.
2 major factors, I think. One is the emotional impact it can have overall in terms of you're dealing with different situations and you can kind of
like emphasize
with what's going on. Secondly, I think you're spreading the audience. You're reaching different people doing it this way.
Yeah.
Because everyone has emotions. So if you link...
Everyone does have emotions, that's true.
Everyone has emotions.
Yeah.
But you struggle connecting to facts.
Yeah.
As much. If you're throwing a load of facts into a video, you're not quite getting that involvement that you might want. Whereas with this, you're getting that.
Yeah. And I guess, well, there's that phrase, isn't there, that like people buy from people rather than people buying from brands.
Exactly.
This is a bit different because they're not selling anything.
Well, no,
I mean, we're kind of selling the benefit of it and selling the idea. And so trying to get people to engage with it. And I think rather than it just being some very nice like motion graphics and animations that kind of tell you about how it works and the benefits of it, like
you're getting a story.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit cold and unapproachable in some ways doing that. Like sometimes it's just the most effective way of getting that information across. But I think when you need more of a deeper emotional kind of resonance with it. I think bringing a person in who has that lived experience is like, it's definitely the way to go.
Very well, it's not.
All right. I do like I think that intro of how I connected to the client originally